mine is not going on. Other than the hearing.
You're trying to talk really loud.
Yeah, I may have turned something off at the last one. Maybe I had me.
There we go.
They thought I knew what I was doing. Okay. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law, 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the town hall at 7 p.m. on Monday, October 21, 2019.
Mayor McNabb? Here. Ken Putnam?
Here.
Judy Sharma?
Here.
Joyce Hill?
Here.
Steve Sharma?
Here.
Wolf Enterprise?
Here.
Kevin Gonzalez?
Here.
Vice Chairman Jessica Black?
Here.
And Joseph Bennett.
Here. And I have some comments to make before we get started tonight. This is an unusual evening for the board. I'm going to change the agenda substantially this evening. The first case we're going to hear is the Bing Shen case at 332 Lupine Way. I hope that we're ready to proceed on that one.
I'm ready, but my architect is still on his way.
Is on his way.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be a few minutes before we get started. So let's hope he's here by then. If not, that'll be the second case. The Jacobs case will be next. And then Jessica Glatt, who is the vice chair of this board and is seated to my left, will be recusing on the next two cases, Daniels and Cleater. Those cases will be heard in her absence, and the first alternate will take her place here on the, who's Wolfgang Tsoutsouris. He's going to take her place on those two cases. Then we will probably take a break for 10 minutes or so, and then come back for what is listed on the on your agenda as the first case, but it will be the last case tonight. New Jersey Energy at 132 Millburn Avenue in Millburn. And that case will proceed after probably a 10-minute break that we'll take after we've heard the residential cases for the evening. A couple of other comments, if I might. For those of you who have cell phones with you, which probably means everybody, like this is so small, I promised my wife this one gets contributed to the Smithsonian in Washington. But what I'm going to ask you to do is put your cell phones on mute now. If they vibrate and you know that there's a text you have to respond to or a phone call, there are 3 doors here. I'm going to ask you to leave the room before you do anything with your cell phone. There's plenty of room in the rear of this floor of the building, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to go back there and do your texting or your phoning, as the case may be. Couple of other things. First, if you're not happy with the results of tonight's hearing, meaning if you are an applicant and your application is denied, or you are an objector and the application is granted notwithstanding your objections, either way, you have the right to appeal. And the appeal is given the state statute and the ordinances in Millburn. The appeal is directly to the Superior Court of New Jersey Law Division in Essex County. And the Superior Court in Essex County sits in the city of Newark. Okay, we'll take just a second now. If there are any of you who wish to come forward at this time, on the table in front of me are some additional copies of the agenda, which is going to be very different from what you see up there. And there's also a one-page summary of how we conduct these meetings. And you're free now to come forward and get one of each if you'd like. And if not, we'll proceed with the cases. I do want to take this opportunity to, again, thank Joey Siegel and Mary McNett, who are seated to my right, who religiously go over each one of the memorializing resolutions, which are prepared by our attorney Gail Fraser, who is seated immediately to my right. And among the three of them, they shape those memorializing resolutions up to the point where they are virtually perfect. And I want to thank all three of them, if I might. I'm getting all kinds of glances from my right, but they are virtually perfect. And I want to thank, once again, all three of them for participating in that very important job from the board. I generally have tried to stay abreast of those resolutions myself, but I've come to the conclusion that among the three of them, I can't add very much, if anything. So I'm going to bow out and leave it to the three of them to get those resolutions in shape. Now, tonight, we do have some memorializing resolutions. First, there's a set of minutes, the minutes of the meeting of September the 16th. Eileen, have you received any changes that are not in the minutes as distributed to the board members?
No.
In that event, I'm going to ask the board members who were present at the September 16th meeting if any of them have any changes or corrections to those minutes. If not, I'm going to ask for a motion from someone who was at that meeting and a second from someone at that meeting to approve those minutes of September 16th.
Move approval of the minutes of 9/16/19.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of this board of September 16th, 2019 are approved. Now we have tonight 6 memorializations, and we'll take them up one at a time. I'm going to remind board members that you only can make a motion, second the motion, or vote if you voted to approve, or in one case here, to deny the application. So the first is going to be the Lander case. Are there any?
Eileen, who's eligible
So that's people eligible to vote, the people that voted
to deny?
To deny.
Joyce Siegel and Wolf Ranger Torres.
So I move adoption of resolution 3694-19.
Is there a second?
Second it?
Joyce Siegel.
Yes.
Wolf Ranger Torres.
Yes.
All right, the next memorializing resolution is Hayden and Allison Stewart at 2 Browning Road in Short Hills. That's calendar 3701-19. That was approved with some conditions. Who's eligible here?
All the full members.
All the board members?
Well, full members.
Full members, okay. Anyone have any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve calendar 3701-19.
Is there a second?
Second?
Mary McNabb.
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Jody Sharma.
Yes.
Joyce Hill.
Yes.
Steve Toger.
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. I'm not even gonna try to say the last name here. Just gonna say calendar 3708-19 at 25 Stewart Road. Who's eligible here?
Who is eligible? Mary, Craig, Jody, Joy, Jessica, Joe, Wolfgang.
And who was the last one?
Wolfgang.
Are there any additions or corrections? If not, is there a motion?
Move calendar 3708-19 for approval.
I'll second.
Mary McNabb.
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Jody Sharma.
Yes.
Joyce Hill.
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres.
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. The next is calendar 3710-19. Marcone, Toure, and Andre Harvey at 20 Mount Ararat Road in Short Hills. Who's eligible here?
All the full members.
Any additions or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to memorialize calendar 3710-19.
Second?
Second?
Mary McNabb.
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Jody Sharma.
Yes.
Joyce Hill.
Yes.
Steve Toger.
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. Now, I know I'm not eligible on this one. Is there anyone else not eligible?
The only other person who's not voting on this is Kevin.
All right, this is calendar 3716-19, Maurice Cox and Christine Perceau at 218 Parsonage Hill Road. Any additions or corrections to this memorializing resolution? Is there a motion?
Move approval calendar 3716-19.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb.
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Jody Sharma.
Yes.
Joyce Hill.
Yes.
Steve Toger.
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres.
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
The last one is calendar 3720-19, Epoch EPOC 7 LLC at 290 Millburn Avenue, Millburn, otherwise known as the Big O. That's an inside joke. Any additions or corrections? Who's eligible here?
All of the full members.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve this one?
I'll move approval of calendar 3720-19.
Second?
Second.
Mary McNabb.
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes.
Jody Sharma.
Yes.
Joyce Hill.
Yes.
Steve Toger.
Yes.
Jessica Glad.
Yes.
Joseph Steinberg.
Yes. All right, in accordance, there's one other thing that I want to say, but I think I'll wait until everyone is here on the New Jersey Energy case. I'll say it anyway, I'll repeat it after they get here. And that is that we're going to have a strict 11 o'clock curfew on this meeting tonight. Yes, it will go that long. And we'll take no witnesses on that case after 10:30. But I'll repeat that when the folks get here. All right, the first case we're going to hear in accordance with the revised agenda is calendar 3690, 332 Lupine Way, Shen. I think both of you gentlemen have been here previously, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, I just want to warn you both, you're still under oath. And please speak into the microphone. These microphones are primarily for recording purposes, so you have to keep your voice up.
Okay. Good evening.
Even.
We had our last meeting and get some good advice from the board. So we went back to our drawing board where we did two major things. We cut our what they call patio completely, and then we make sure 100% satisfy the 40 feet setbacks. So in that result, we reduced the property size of almost 250 square feet. And because of that, we have to resend the letters to the neighbors, so to notify the driveway is getting a little bigger, a little longer because the property size shrink. So that's why we're end up today, and I will leave all the details to my architect. Thank you.
Come forward. You've been qualified and sworn, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
All right, you want to proceed and tell us what you've done since you were first here?
Okay, yes, we made a substantial reduction in the size of the proposed building. It went down to from 34, I believe, the first time around, to 3,098 square feet. We met the setback of 40 feet, but because of the shape of the property, we can't meet the average setback that's over 50 feet. But we did what we could to meet the 40-foot minimum. And also, yes, the elimination of the patio, all the coverage in the front, and we also adopted a more traditional architectural vocabulary, for the appearance of the house.
Now, I'm looking at your summary, and I see that you have 2 front yard setbacks here. Can you show the board which 2 they are and which one complies and which one does not?
Right. We would have to refer to the engineer's plans for the two. Right. Yeah, 40 feet is the minimum required, and it starts at the lower right corner of the house, of the building, and we're at 40.5 over there, and we're at 40.0 at the middle of the front elevation towards in the northern direction. The average for the area is 51.4, but that's 10 feet further in, and couldn't construct a viable house with that restriction.
So you're still seeking a front yard setback? is
A
that
front yard setback for average, yes.
For the average,
The
based on
average.
the average.
Oh, and another a variance that was originally sought, which was a height of structures in the front yard of over 2 feet. Per the engineer, if you refer to the zoning data chart, we've eliminated that variance. We're holding to 2 feet for all retaining walls, retaining wall heights.
I'm seeing on the summary that the front wall height is still proposed at 4.4 feet to up to 5.2 feet in the driveway area, is that correct?
I spoke with the engineer this morning, and they said it's going to hold it to 2 feet.
So you're withdrawing
Withdrawing
that request?
That request, yes.
All right, so if I understand you correctly now, you have a front yard coverage variance
Yes.
of where 30% is permitted, and you're proposed at 43.2%?
For lot coverage, we're at 31.93. Oh, and in the front yard, I'm sorry, yes.
Front coverage is gonna be 40.19%, I believe.
No, this is what I see. Eileen, you want to clarify what you believe are still the variances here?
I wasn't aware of the wall height because I didn't get anybody's plan. So
You don't have the
the only plan I have is the one that was.
July 23rd, 19? You don't have that?
I have it.
I have, the one that I have was what was submitted to me, still has, shows the walls at bottom roll 9.9, top roll 9.3, that's the last one.
What's the date of the one you have, Eileen?
July 23rd, but it still shows the front yard wall height. Exceeding 2 feet.
But I understand that
Oh,
that's being withdrawn tonight. Is that correct?
I had the conversation with the engineer, and per the table that he has,
Right.
he's indicating maximum retaining wall height in front yard at 2.0 feet. I see the indication there about the top of wall and bottom of wall with almost a 5 foot, with about a 5 foot difference, and I don't know if that's an omission or.
Well, if you don't get the relief for
Yeah.
walls, you won't be able to build them, or you'll have to.
Yeah, because, I mean, the table indicates that the maximum retaining wall height is 2 feet, and that's what they're providing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what the summary says, right? Summary still says that they need 4.4 feet to 5.2 feet at the driveway area. Pardon me? Well, I don't know, that's what I'm trying to clarify.
One second. Okay, natural steps. I think the conservative thing to do at this point is to request that variance so that we can get approval for it.
So you're not withdrawing it?
I guess I can't, not with that information there on that site plan.
Yeah, the elevations don't really support.
Don't support the table.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so
Yep.
we're left with,
They still need, impervious cover, and they have 2 front yards, because you had to kind of, sent you the plan where I kind of dissected the front yard because they're on a curve. So we have front yard 1, front yard 2, really it's front yard 1 which has an issue with the cover, because that's where the driveway is. So I think they had,
so you're basically
Are
assuming
you talking about this?
there are
this that
2
you sent
front
us?
yards.
correct. So they need coverage on front yard 1 of, 39.6, where 30% is permitted.
But wait, this form says 43.2.
The revised one, you have the revised one?
I have July
I
29.
have July 29.
And that has 1 front yard coverage.
Right, so you have the most recent numbers, which is the front yard coverage, because I think you moved the house back a little bit.
Yes, move the house back.
Moved the house back
Yeah.
a little bit.
So we have
so
increase of
more
coverage, right.
So it increased the numbers that way.
Yeah, there's more
So those are
yeah.
the numbers.
There's less building coverage, but more driveway as a result of the house being reduced in
All right,
size.
but to be completely clear about this, I'm looking at, and I think our council has the same one, a summary sheet.
It's attachment B from the zoning officer,
Attachment B.
dated July 29, 2019.
And that shows a front yard setback in front yard number 1, where, based on the average, it should be 50.6, and instead it's proposed at 49 feet.
Right,
So
so
if-
it meets the 40-foot, but it does not meet the average.
Right. And the front yard number 2,
Is
you're
that
saying is compliant,
correct?
so there's no variance there. The front yard coverage, is that taking into account the entire front
That's the
yard?
That's the, I have it because we draw from the radius, so we have to separate it into two. So it's front yard 1, which has the coverage issue.
Front yard 1, that's where the driveway is,
Correct.
Mhm.
and that's,
Proposed at 43.2 instead of 30%.
Instead of 30%. And then we have the front yard wall height, and you're not withdrawing that.
Well, it's within the 40 feet, but it is showing on the plan a difference of about 5 feet there. So I don't think we can withdraw it.
No, I'm not, I
We're
don't-
talking about the height.
The height,
wall
yeah.
I don't want you to withdraw it if
No,
You
no,
can't
it's
withdraw.
going to be a problem.
No, we don't want to, because we want to make sure we're holding up the soil that's there for the, you know,
Fine.
yeah, per the
All
topography.
right, so instead of 2 feet, you're, in the driveway area, you're seeking a variance of 4.4 feet to 5.2 feet
Yes, we would seek that variance
for that wall.
for that wall.
Are there any questions from board members of either of these two witnesses? Is there anyone in the audience who has a question? Questions only now of either of these two witnesses. Now is the time when you have the opportunity, if you're in the audience, to come forward and speak against or in favor of this particular application. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this application? I see none and I hear none, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, what are your thoughts about the 3 variances that are sought here? I'm hearing a resounding silence. That's okay. Is there someone who wants to make a motion either way here? That's not good. Motion to approve or motion to deny? And we're lumping all 3 of the variances together.
Well, they're all C variances. so-
Yeah, they're all C variances, so they're all majority vote wins.
So there's 3 variances.
Also-
Average front yard setback on the first front yard. Front yard coverage also on that front yard number 1, and the front yard wall height.
Well, I'll speak if nobody else wants to speak. I don't think it's appropriate for me to make a motion, but I'll speak to this. I think when this case first came before the board, there were more variances and more serious variances.
6 variances.
Yeah, there were 6, right. And now we're down to basically 3 variances, and those 3 variances all relate in effect to half the front yard. That is, as you face the property on the right-hand side. So from my point of view, I think the applicant has gone a long way toward mitigating what I think the board felt were significant variances, both in number and in size, when they first came before the board. So if there is a motion to approve, I, for one, would be in favor of granting the 3 variances. But I'm still waiting to hear a motion.
I agree with what you're saying. I just don't want this to be one of those cases that we approve it because, you know, we're happy that they reduced, you know, a number of variances and then the house gets built and we're like, what were we thinking? I think that that might be, getting the feeling that might be what, is holding other board members up from, you know, giving it a full approval by way of making a motion. So I'd be curious to hear some other board members' thoughts.
I think exactly the same thing. That's the house you get the phone call on. Did you guys approve that? And that's the thing that's holding me up from supporting it. That, you know, we're taking a cape now that's appropriately sized, that sits on the lot properly, it's a very prominent lot. And then this is going to get built and it's going to really look massive.
But I'm going to ask the board members, I know it's really difficult to do emotionally, but I'm going to ask the board members to focus on just the 3 variances that are at issue here. We may not like the size of the house, we may not like where it's sitting on the property, or there may be other issues.
But we consider a streetscape.
You can consider streetscape, but they have to be, it has to be considered in light of just the variances that are being sought.
Well, also, you're building a new house here, essentially a new home. So, it to me, still could conform if you're building a new house. So I look at it from that standpoint too. That if we're gonna start from scratch, let's design something that conforms.
But I'm,
If it, just to speak about your point, Joe, just taking the front yard number 1 in terms of coverage, I think that's a very, very wide driveway. And if I look at it in the elevation, so that makes a significant elevation, almost 3 stories. So being that it's on a hill, so I'm just talking specific about, like you said, to do. So that would be where I think it becomes visibly the strongest case for why it's not appropriate. Because making the driveway wider makes the entire house feel 3 stories.
I will ask our attorney's advice on something now. If there is no motion, either to grant or to deny, where do we stand legally?
It's a problem, because they could, if the board doesn't vote on the application, either up or down, you know, they're entitled to a decision within 45 days, and we've extended this, so obviously that's not a problem, but they would be entitled to make an argument that they have a statutory approval. So the board has to vote. You're either gonna vote to approve or vote to deny.
Well, I've asked for a motion to
Mary
approve.
would like to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
You haven't looked down this way far enough. I would like to know if there is a way that they can make some adjustments to get rid of some of this, because it is a new construction. Is there any way that you can eliminate any of these variances that we have on the board tonight?
We're talking about the coverage variance and mentioned the driveway size, but that's something that could be considered. But I'd have to take it up with my client and see if, because of all the variances we're talking about, you know, like adhering to the average setback, that really pins us to, in order to comply. You know, it's really going to be not viable to make any kind of even the smallest house, you know, viable by going to 50.6 feet, another 10 feet further in. As far as I mean, you know, there's room for reduction certainly in the lot coverage with the driveway, and by reducing the width of the driveway, yes, it would appear, at least on that elevation, less of the building would be out of the ground. But I would have to take it up with my client first. If we could have a moment.
You can have a moment, or you can take another adjournment. It's up to you.
We can move on to the next case and
All
then.
right, so,
I mean, we do have other cases.
yes, okay.
So if you'd like to go in the back room.
Yes, yeah, we'll do that, yeah. Upon conferring, when we get back, just,
We'll call you again when
Okay.
you're ready, just come back.
okay, thank you.
Because after this next case is when we lose Jessica,
Yeah,
so
but
we
we could
need
do
to
it
have
in
him come
between,
back.
yeah, come back in between the next case.
Yes, we're gonna
Yeah.
take one case now, then you can come back after that. All right, the next case we're hearing is calendar 3714-19, which is Jacobs at 9 Rowway Road.
Yes, we do. Robin Jacobs.
Richard Jacobs.
Okay. We've lived in our house for 22 years and expect it to be empty nesters by this point, or at least close to it. But we love our neighborhood and we'll probably be aging in place. Our older son is working on a second career choice and will need time to establish his next part of his life by building his resume. And our younger son is on Spectrum and at community college, and it'll be a while before he's able to live independently. My husband and myself are both self-employed. I have an office in New York, which has moved farther from Penn Station. And because of a degenerative back issue, I've been working 2 to 3 days a week from home, plus nights and weekends, because business luckily has been good. I need an office, and we need additional space for privacy and for 4 adults to live comfortably together. We also have water issues with our basement, so it's not available as extra living space. And we don't put anything of value down there, so it leaves us very limited storage space. So basically, we want to do this in order to have more living space, working space, storage space, and a layout that provides more privacy and comfortable living for 4 adults in this family. Thanks.
Let's get your qualifications on record.
Okay. Thomas Singer. I'm an architect. I'm registered in New Jersey. My license is valid. I have a degree, undergraduate degree in environmental design and a graduate degree in Masters of Architecture from the University of Pennsylvania. They were granted in 1985 and 1988 respectively. Been a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey since 1988, and a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey since 2012.
Your licenses are in good standing?
My licenses are valid, and I have presented before boards in New Jersey and New York.
And you're appearing tonight in what capacity?
Architect and planner.
Your qualifications are accepted by this board.
Thank you. So the goals the owner laid out were pretty clear. It's to find some communal space for the family, get a normal level of privacy for 4 adults living in the same house, and find place to store things because the basement's not terribly viable. And to bring the house up to the neighborhood standard of fit and finish. The site is on Rahway Road. It's 9 Rahway Road. It's 50 feet wide. 60 feet is required for the zone. The area of the site is 5,500 square feet instead of the 6,000 that's required. It's across the street from the west branch of the Rahway River. The house is consistent with the rest of the block on the front side. The proposal is to keep the development pattern of most of the houses that are getting expanded on the rear. There is if you look at the site plan, you get some sort of view of what the streetscape looks like. The house number 9 is lot number 22. It's shown on this drawing with the addition on the rear. And since this was filed, lots 13 and 17, 15 and 17 have been granted similar additions. There's a 6-foot elevation change between the front and the back of the property. And that does two things. One is it puts the back of the property, I think I need to add this, in the 500-year flood zone X. The front of the property is where you enter the house at the front floor level is above the 100-year floodplain. The back is essentially a drainage well that goes right down the middle. And that is what creates the basement problems. The difference in elevation also creates a height issue because the basis of the height ends up 4.5 feet, 4'3" below the ground elevation of the house, which also compresses the attic, which means they're squeezed from the top and the bottom. The intervention that we're proposing is the rear addition. On the first floor, it would house an expansion of the kitchen, a family room that expands into the kitchen. And the second floor is a master bedroom with a private bath, which would bring the total number of bathrooms in the house to, on the second floor, to 2. The deck is also part of the variance, and that's located to the side of the addition. And the reason, the current one is to the back of the house, but in order to maintain that view down the backyards and to stay out of the bottom of the drainage swale, we're proposing putting it next to the house. 3 variances are being pursued. One for the accessory side setback on the deck. Currently, the deck is on the left side of the house, and it's 8.7 feet from the property line. The proposed deck is on the right side of the house. Did I get that right? Right. It's backwards. No, you're looking at it from the front. So it was previously on the right, it's now going to be on the left, and it's 8.2 feet from the property line. The standard's 12 feet. And that's in order to stay out of the drainage well and maintain the view corridor down the backyards. Building coverage is the other one. The standard is 23. We're proposing 25.65. That's 146 square feet. Most of it's in the addition. Some of it is in there's a front portico that's being added. So it's divided between the two. It's largely the result of the undersized lot. Then there's a floor area variance, which is allowable is 36. The proposed is 48.2%, which amounts to 673 square feet. It's partly due to the lot size, and it's partly due to the loss of use in the basement and the attic. So the C variances, they can be considered C1s and C2s in both cases. C1A, because of the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, and shape of the specific property, the site is below the minimum in width and area standards, which contributes to that. We're talking about C variances, which only apply to the deck and the back of the house, and the lot cover, building cover. And because of topographical and physical features affecting the property, which in this case is the change of elevation between the front and the back, and the flooding issues, there's a C1B as well. Then on the C2, the property locates the changes as close to the rear of the house as possible, maintains the continuity of the rear wall, rear yard, and the building coverage partially relates to the portico. So in terms of advancing the purposes of zoning, you can cite safety from floods and other natural disasters, provides light, air, and open space, and promotes a desirable visual environment because of the setbacks and the open space and the flood mitigation. In terms of the negative criteria, the use will not be detrimental to the public good because there's really no impact to the street. The portico adds some improvements to the street. All the setbacks the new addition respects the setback lines. The existing one is not getting any worse. The backyards would be consistent with the rest of the block, or most of the rest of the block. And it advances some of the more recent zoning changes, including the intention to create upper floors that are smaller than the lower floors, to have setbacks so that the massing is not straight up, the way the last variance would, which is also reflected in the height to setback laws in the R2 and 3 districts. The use will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan, the zoning ordinance, because the proposed addition is consistent with the development pattern on the block, and the variants that are being sought are specific to the site in terms of the reduced area and the grade issues. That gets us to the D variant, which is for floor area. And that is a D3 reason, which is a special reason that the project advances the purposes of zoning, and the general welfare will be promoted because of the proposed site. It's particularly suitable for the proposed use. So there we have reason A, which encourages municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which promotes public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. This is consistent with the neighborhood and the rear yard pattern that's been developed. Does not encroach on the neighbor's privacy, respects setbacks, and stays clear of the bottom of the floodway. Reason B, secures safety from fire, flood, panic, and other natural or man-made disasters. The flood issue, we're trying to stay away from the drainage swale, so we don't impact the flow of water back there or the drainage. And it resolves the basement flooding issue. Provides adequate light, air, and open space. The front of the house has a substantial second floor setback. The portico won't substantially affect that, and the addition doesn't encroach on anybody's property. E, to promote the establishment of appropriate population densities and concentrations that will contribute to the well-being of the neighborhood, communities, region, preservation of the environment. We believe it's consistent with the other applications that have been here and with the pattern on the block. Promotes a desirable visual environment. It's in that it creates less opportunity to, creates more space to store things in, so you don't end up with things outside of the house. Makes for good housekeeping. And we've got the front portico that should help with that. And promotes the maximum practical recovery of recyclable materials in not tearing this property down. And I know this is a little controversial. You are not sending a lot of materials to a landfill. So the most sustainable way of treating a development project is to keep as much of the existing property as you can, the existing house. The negative criteria is very similar to the last ones that I said. It's got no impact on in terms of not being detrimental to the public good. It's got no impact on the street. The backyards are, the flow of the backyards are maintained. Makes for better housekeeping. And it shall not impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. It's consistent with the development plan in the area, maintains existing setbacks, site-specific, the constraints are specific to the site, and it resolves water issues that are not townwide. And that's
I have some
what I have to
questions.
say.
You talked a great deal about consistency in the neighborhood and no negative impact on the public good, which we know has been interpreted by the courts to mean the immediate neighborhood. The floor area ratio variance that is being sought here is very substantial. It's about more than 30% greater than than is required.
It's 26%.
And my question to you is, have you done any studies of what the floor area ratios are of the neighboring properties?
We looked at the tax rolls, and there are comparables that have, most of the recent ones are in the 2,600 square foot house range, which is where this falls.
Well,
2653, which is
are the lot sizes
which is
all-
not which is large for a 50 by 110 lot, but given the issues with the basement and the attic, that's why we feel that
Well, I'm
this is
particularly interested in whether there are other houses in the neighborhood where the floor area ratio is in the same category of 45 to 50%, which is basically what you're asking for here.
The answer is I don't know.
You know,
So let me put some more numbers to this so you can understand. Your lot's currently 9.1% below the standard, okay? Your current FAR is 19% above the standard, or
Right.
7% above the standard if you had a compliant lot. So the house already is basically, you bit that apple. I mean, and also your impervious surface, you bit that apple. So you're at you're already over if you had a standard size lot.
Right.
Now we're going, as Joe mentioned, 30, it was 26%, about 25.7% exactly, of the floor area ratio deviation from your lot, okay, from 5,500 square feet.
Right.
So these are massive numbers. I mean, in percentage basis. So it's, I get trying to compare it to other houses in the neighborhood, but to try to compare those numbers, it's very difficult, because these are huge deviations from standards.
They are. It's a 26,000 square foot house, which
2,600 square.
2,600.
Yeah.
Not Arizona. So while
I get
it is
the house not-
massively above the, I agree that the floor area ratio is exceeded by a significant amount.
But I
The
think where Joe's
reasons
going
are
is the
because
26 if every house is 26%
Yes.
deviation in your neighborhood, that would be actually just like a townhouse development. I mean, that'd be,
well, I mean, the point is, it wouldn't be a viable argument everywhere in town.
no, I'm talking about this general area.
Yeah, just
In,
the street.
in this general area, there,
I did notice that looking at the house from the rear, the left side neighbor, they do have an addition on the back, which appears to be a basement plus 1 story.
Right.
But what you're proposing here is a basement plus 2 stories. So it's definitely a different look than certainly what the immediate neighbor has.
That's the one to the right.
correct. That's the one to the right of the house, yes. Yes, 2 stories, it is 1 story on the right, and we are proposing 2 stories because it's a 1-bedroom, a 1-bathroom house at this point.
How many square feet are in that portico?
About 36.
And then how does it affect the project that you don't have any space in the basement?
Normally you would have a basement in which to store things. You'd also have an attic in which to store things. You'd have a basement where you could do some work, some recreation. This house doesn't have those.
Have you looked
those
into water
possibilities.
remediation at all?
The slab in the basement is below the 500-year floodplain. And so you can mitigate a lot of things, and we can mitigate the windows also, but at some point,
Well, so is everyone in the neighborhoods.
yeah,
That's the problem.
this is a problem that runs throughout the neighborhood, and most of these houses are getting substantially bigger. I don't know that this was ever the argument before, but
why does it say that you need a waiver for environmental impact?
I believe that's
That's
not
standard.
correct.
I think,
This is a residential property, they do not need site plan approval.
Right.
EIS is a site plan requirement for preliminary, for major
I
site,
was just
site
wondering,
plan.
I didn't understand, okay.
no,
I was gonna
well,
clarify that with Eileen. What is the difference in elevation from the front to the back?
from the front of the lot to the back
Yeah.
of the lot, it is 6 feet. And I believe it's 4'2" to the back of the structure.
I have another question.
Yes.
Number 11, the neighbor in number 11,
Right.
have you spoken to them or done any, not any kind of observation about how light and air impacts on their property?
That's the neighbor to the left?
Yeah.
We did do a sun study that we haven't quite communicated yet, but it was part of the intention. So, at some point, we
The left side's
expect to
going
go
up
over that.
considerably.
What?
The left side of your home is going up considerably over where it is now.
It's the right side,
The right side.
and she's on the left
Sorry,
side.
right side from the front, sorry.
So
Yeah, left side from the backyard.
So the effects on the right side, on the left side would be, it amounts to about an hour at the solstices. It's gone by, the shadow of this is gone by 8 o'clock in the morning. Right.
which is right there, so that they'll be then looking at a wall from the patio.
That's true.
Did you
Any
try-
other questions
yeah,
from
did-
board members?
Did you
Yeah.
try any other floor plans that reduces the FAO?
Quite a few. We
And-
spent a lot of time trying to get something to happen with the roof, but the height was a big problem.
To use the attic?
Yeah, to use the attic and fill out the front so that all the mass was forward, but wasn't enough height to make it work in any meaningful way. If it would work, that would mitigate the floor area issues.
Any other questions from board members? Any questions from anyone in the audience? Is there a statement from anyone in the audience with respect to this application? I hear none. I see none. Close the public portion of the meeting. Board members, I think we have two issues here. We have a D variance, which is the floor area ratio, which, as we all know, requires 5 affirmative votes. We have the side setback, which, as you face the house, is on the left in the rear, where they propose to put a deck. And we have a building coverage variance of 2.26%. Anyone like to kick off the discussion?
Well, I just want to confirm that, despite the applicant's testimony about the reasons why they want it, personal reasons, we really can't consider those
True.
in the application. Is that right?
That's correct.
Correct.
This is a D4 variance, floor area ratio, and the standard for you is, can the site accommodate the proposed floor area ratio, notwithstanding the deviation? That's the standard.
I was just gonna say, I think this is a very tough case. I think hearing, and I've said this before, I think that hearing, about a house where there's one bathroom upstairs, like that's not meeting today's living standards. But then you look at a floor area ratio like this, and the number is massive. It's really hard to, balance what outweighs the other. I still would be very curious to know what the floor area ratios are of the other houses in the neighborhood and what kind of deviations we're talking about. I don't know if that's information that the architect could get.
So, in looking at the dimensions of the rooms that are being added, they're modest dimensions. And I agree with Jessica. In a modern house in this town, you really don't have one bathroom on the second floor and no master bedroom, master bath combination. So although the floor area ratio concerns me a great deal, and I can't support it at the moment, I would think that that's a good thing to take into consideration because those dimensions are not excessive.
So will we be separating the D variance from the others, or?
We'll have to vote separately on the D variance. Anyone else have anything they want to add?
Well, I see what everyone's saying about the practicality of the house and so forth, but if we go back to the definition of the floor area ratio variance and look at can the lot accommodate the mass, and currently the house already is in violation of FAR, so to add more to it is where I'm having an issue, and also I'm concerned about that large protrusion in the back, what it's going to do to the neighbor's house. That they're going to be staring at an enormous structure from the backyard's perspective, which then leads me to say, well, then maybe the lot can't carry the mass. So that's sort of what's stuck in my head.
Yeah, I would agree with Craig. when I look at the, I guess the Google map, and I look at just the configuration of the other houses on the street, I know that the calculations haven't been done, but it just appears that it would be very large compared to others. And I don't know if, I look at the room sizes, I know they're not enormous, but we recently approved an addition that was, I think, 2 doors down, and that was really modest, and it worked. I think that maybe they're not enormous, but they're kind of generous
Yeah,
for
generous.
this neighborhood. I think that's a pretty generous kitchen and master bath, and I even look at the second floor and I look at the master bedroom. If those closets were put somewhere else, then the bedroom could be cut back and it wouldn't be as large after all. I don't think they're that small.
Mr. Singer, I'm hearing from board members that the vote would be extremely close, if not negative, on the D variant. And I'm wondering if you would like the opportunity to take an adjournment of this case to rethink this with your client.
Would you like to?
Mr. Singer, I'll just remind you, the alternative is if you ask the board to bring this to a vote and you fail to garner the necessary 5 affirmative votes, in order for you to come back, you would have to have an application that is substantially different, that the board would have to conclude is substantially different from the proposed application in order to avoid the doctrine of res judicata, meaning the matter was already decided.
Yeah, I understand that. However, I mean, it is a small, I think at that point it may be,
Want an opportunity to discuss
yeah,
this?
let me discuss that with the,
Daniel's case is next, but I'm reluctant to start on that until we get some word
Well,
from
we gotta
Mr.
go back to Ben
Or-
Shen.
Do you want me to go see if those guys are ready?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that's
Sure.
what Eileen went out to maybe get.
Yeah,
She
I
went
think
out.
Eileen went out to go.
Oh, she didn't go,
Do you want me to check with
do you
Jen?
want, yeah, to go
Yes.
check on them and see?
Yes, could you
Sure.
check on that? I just want to direct, there is some remarks to the board members. You may recall that the Park Road subdivision case was scheduled to come back before this board on November 5. Our secretary, November 4. Our secretary has been informed that the applicants are not prepared to go forward on November 4. So they're gonna take an adjournment presumably to the December meeting, is that right, Eileen? And they'll be listed on the agenda for the December meeting.
However, Shen is ready to go forward, so why don't we hear them?
So Shen is ready to go forward?
Yeah.
Okay,
Eileen, on Park, are we gonna, on November 4th, are we going to announce it?
to the
Okay.
city, yes.
Okay, so we're
I would like
jumping
to the
back to
professional
Shen.
explain it.
sure.
All right, yeah, we've absorbed the commentary, and I think we have something in mind with regard to reducing the magnitude of the driveway and the right side of the building to get it to be more in appearance with the existing context. And so we'd like to adjourn till the next available hearing date to make that presentation.
Thank you.
And you'll submit revised plans.
We will be submitting revised plans.
Thank you.
Eileen, when do you think you can get them on? December 2?
December 2.
Thank you.
All right, let me make a formal announcement. The Shen matter, and I'll give you the, it's calendar 3690-19 is hereby being adjourned to December 2, 2019 at 7 p.m. in this room at the Municipal Building, City Hall on Millburn Avenue.
Now, just a reminder, there's no further notice as long as the variances stay the same or shrink. If you have new variances or they're a greater deviation, then you have to renotice.
Yes, I understand.
See you back in December.
December, thank you.
Craig, could you step out the door and see how these folks are doing?
Sure, yes.
Because I want to move this.
Yeah, and Jessica wants to
Yeah,
leave,
Jessica,
so.
yeah, Jessica wants to go home.
So, I have a question about substantial differences. If we were to take off the front of the house, in order to get rid of some of the ground floor plant space in favor of the upper floor space, would that be a new application?
Well,
Would that
that'll
be
be a-
substantially
I
similar
mean,
to what
that'll,
we've got here?
that would be a determination that the board would have to make when they see the nature of the changes, but it sounds like it could be. I mean, I don't make the call, and neither does Eileen, that's a decision the board makes. Clearly, it's the same parties, it's the same property, you know, it's just gonna be a question of how different is the new application from the old application, so. It sounds like it, you know, it could be a factor.
The other alternative is you could just take an adjournment.
Yeah,
Right, but I can't bring something back that's gonna be more than 60 or 70 feet different. Is part
It's
of
gonna
the
be
problem.
more than what?
60 or 70 square feet different than
well,
what's
if
being
you're
proposed
submitting
now.
you know, like if you ask for an adjournment and you submit revised plans prior to the next hearing date, you know, 10 days before the hearing date, as long as you stay at the same variances or less and you don't create new variances, the board is certainly free to review revised plans,
Sure.
you know? So it
Right.
sounds like you could do what you're thinking about doing without taking and going through a new application. Just ask for an adjournment. Sounds like the next available date's gonna be December 2nd, so it sounds like, am I correct, Eileen? So you'd have plenty of time to come up with a revised plan and submit it at least 10 days before the December 2nd hearing date.
without
But you-
having to renotice.
But you're
Without having to
concerned that your
renotice.
changes are not gonna be substantial enough?
That's my concern.
Right.
They don't have to be.
Well, they don't have to be if you keep this application open.
No, that they're gonna be substantial enough to
Avoid res judicata.
No,
No,
to,
To make
change
this
the-
appealing.
right,
Yeah.
Or
that's not
approvable.
gonna
Yeah.
push.
Right,
to
we're
the
talking
edge,
about
or-
two different things.
Yeah.
Right,
We can't
right.
answer.
I can't answer that
So-
question. I can only answer, the possibility of a res judicata issue is non-existent if you stay within this application and come back with a revised plan.
Am I
The
able
boards
to ask him a
can't
question?
speculate on
The-
how they're gonna view
the
that.
question?
The vice chair has a question for you.
Are you able to do a little more research as to what the FARs are of, like you said, there are comparable houses in the neighborhood?
Well, I
Could you-
have tax records, but
Mhm.
that's a completely different measurement scheme
Okay.
than,
So that's
than
not
zoning.
I
So
didn't
the
know if
only
that's
option I
public
would have would be
information.
to go measure all these houses,
Yeah, which you can do.
which I could do, but I'd
Well,
have
they have to
to
let-
let people
Yeah, they
in.
have to let-
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
people would have to
Yeah.
let me in, so it's not quite practical.
Yeah, may I ask a question? If you can arrange the programming in the house, perhaps that would be helpful, because I don't think that floor area ratio, I think it's just too high to get through the wall.
All right, well, I think we take another look at it. All right, we'll adjourn.
Okay,
So
Carry
this,
to the
this
sec-
case will be carried. That's the Richard and Robin Jacobs case. Calendar 3714-19 will be carried till the evening of December 2, 2019 at 7 p.m. in this room at the municipal building on Millburn Avenue. No further notice or publication is required unless there are expanded or new variances. All right, now for the next two cases, the vice chair, All right, we're gonna take a 2-minute adjournment. I'm told it's 2 minutes long.
I'm gonna just leave my,
Yeah,
I'm gonna leave my stuff here,
Yeah, you
because I'm
can
coming
go.
back, I know that Wolfgang is gonna take it, I'll be back. All right, Craig's on duty to just text me and I'll be right back, I live 7 minutes away.
So far, we haven't made a lot of progress tonight, have we?
You dribble in the wheel.
The Shen file is getting very big.
yeah, I'm getting rid of the one that's the old plan. I'm gonna just not bring it next time. It just complicates matters.
Yeah, I have a plan here that is dated January 7th, 2018.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's time to get rid of that one.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I keep bringing it, cause,
Yeah, I do too.
but I'm not gonna bring it next time. Wolfgang, if you wanna sit up here for the next two cases, Jessica's gone. We'll have a better view.
Oh, you're back. There you are. It was 2 minutes. All right, the next case that will be heard is Daniels, calendar 3715-19. Let the record indicate that the vice chair of our board has recused on this case for personal reasons.
Mr. Chairman, in the issue of transparency, I will say that I know Luciana Daniels. She was a friend of my daughter, but it would not,
Influence you in any way.
my ability to be objective.
Thank you.
While we're disclosing things, Dave and I went to high school together, but I went to high school with a lot of kids, so, but that will not any means influence on.
Okay.
I do. Daniel Dubonnet.
David Daniels?
Luciana Daniels.
Okay. Who's
Luciana. Thank you.
who's gonna speak first?
We'll let Danny speak.
Okay, and they'll chime in
Okay.
if I miss something. Okay, interesting project that you're about to see. I think the result of an approval, you'll see, will aesthetically be more pleasing and architecturally more correct. And there are 6 variances associated with this application, so that in itself sounds scary. There are all pre-existing, non-conforming variances that exist. And the exciting thing is, I think that at the end of this, the project, the home, the neighbors see will be significantly nicer than what exists. So what's the project? Currently, there's a 1,255 square foot deck on the rear of the property. And I'll mark these as exhibit, let's just get into it. These are photographs that I took. They accurately depict the site as they are today.
A1.
Mark it A1.
Oh, no, Dan, we need your qualifications.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, real quickly, licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I was licensed in 2001. My license is current and in good effect. I practice residential architectural primarily in Essex County, and I've appeared before this board.
Appeared before any other boards?
Yes, Union, Essex County.
Are your license, is your license in good standing?
Still good.
Okay. Your qualifications as an architect are accepted by this board?
Okay, so the photo with the tax map is gonna be A1,
Yeah, this is a Zillow map, but we'll go A1.
okay?
Photographs-
That's a Zillow map, that's not the tax map?
No, I have a tax map in your thing, but that's Zillow.
Okay, okay.
So what are we looking at? So basically, we have a 1,200 square foot deck that we want to take down, make it smaller, make it about 900 square feet. So it's less, over 300 square feet less than exists, but we want to make it a raised patio. Then underneath the patio, we want garages, because it's a good use of space. And the way the topography of the site works, it's a natural, he currently has 2 garages under the house. So this will create a 3rd garage, and it'll be under the patio. Well, when you do that, all of a sudden it goes from lot coverage to building coverage. Although there'll be less space taken up, there'll be significantly lot of building coverage. So the house is existing over. The house is, well, runs with variances in a moment. So architecturally, the style, it's a contemporary home. It was built in the 70s. It was built with the driveways, the house, the deck as is. The Daniels hadn't increased the footprint at all. They've actually been maintaining this deck over the years and over the years. It's a mahogany deck, and they put some money into it. And I think a raised masonry patio with strong, stucco walls will complement the house as opposed to the deck. We're in the R4 zone. We're on Cayuga Way. We're this highlighted pie-shaped lot, so we have an irregular lot which will come into play. 2 lots adjacent to the Daniels are empty lots. They've been empty forever. I don't know if there's any plans of them to develop. The adjacent neighbors are all at higher elevation, so we're not negatively affecting anybody as a result of what we're proposing. This I'd like to mark as A2. Just a blown-up, colorized version of the survey. Okay, so what we're looking at,
I just want to interrupt you for a minute. I think you said something that I don't want this to get into the record if it is not. So you said something to the effect that these applicants have not increased the size of the house,
footprint,
or the footprint.
building coverage.
Oh.
Yeah, we
building
came
coverage.
prior, I was,
Because there was a prior
there was a
application
prior application for,
for area ratio in part.
be about 13, 15 square feet of FAR on the second floor. This house has a very, very large footprint and a very small second floor. About 4,000 square feet footprint and 1,000 square feet second floor, so a lot of wasted space that they inherited. So what you're looking at, this is the backyard, so this is the trapezoidal shape. The highlighted yellow areas are the deck that exists that we're going to be removing. So we're going to be coming in quite a bit on the side and the rear, and the wood deck will be replaced with this masonry patio. So we're not expanding what exists, and it's now going to be categorized as building coverage because of the garage. So the variances. Oh, and I apologize. In this corner of the deck, we'd like to build a one-story addition. And that triggers the FAR. And all the other.
Meaning first floor addition.
The first floor addition,
Mhm.
right. The garage will not affect the FAR at all. So maybe when we look at it later, we could isolate maybe the FAR differently, because that, construction of that doesn't affect any of the other variances requested. So, let me run through the 6 variances quickly. First one is for a side-facing garage setback. So in the R4 zone, they require that you're 28 feet from the property line to the face of the garage. But because of the shape of the property line, we're 24.6 feet away. If you draw a line from the corner perpendicular to the lot line, that's 24.6 feet. If you draw a line straight across, which is not how we measure it,
Excuse me.
that's 28 feet left. That's 28 feet. And of course, the garage doors are on the corner. I calculated that if we were 3 feet from the corner, and I draw this horizontal line, we're at 30 feet. So we're not concerned. Obviously, we're creating a third-car garage, not the primary garage, so if it's a little awkward to get it to, they're comfortable with that. So that's the first variance, and it's a violation of 3.35 feet. Combined side yard setback. So I have a purple line here that shows the combined side yard setback, which is a function of the width of the property. So, of course, we're a bit penalized because of the shape of the lot. It's existing non-conforming. Existing is 32.8%. You need 35%. So that's existing, and proposed is 29.8. Obviously, it's a function of the shape of the property. Third variance, rear yard
I'm
unoccupied.
sorry, why is that variance increasing?
It's increasing, well, it's existing, but it's an accessory structure. Now that I make it a building, now it becomes a principal building. So, yes, that we didn't push it any closer. The third one, rear yard unoccupied, so existing non-conforming, we didn't conform. And before our rear yard area was calculated at the back of the house, because it was deck. Now that that's considered building, our rear yard area shrunk, technically, on paper, although it's like we're creating more rear yard space as a result of this. But because of the way it's defined, it's included in the variance. The fourth one is building coverage. So this is the highest number. All the other numbers are
Wait,
not
go
so
back a
bad.
second, now the rear yard, you're gonna calculate it from,
So now we go from the back of the garage,
which is the patio,
which is the patio, where before we were allowed to be here.
right, okay.
We're still not conforming, but now we're obviously
Mm-hmm,
a few percentage different. The violation there is 7.6%. But again, there's no one to our right, and everybody around us is pretty high. As you go around Cayuga, there's a pretty significant elevation change. Fourth variance, building coverage. The house is existing at 20%. Your max allowed is 14%. The existing house is at 20. We're proposing 23.8%. It's 2,000 square feet over what's allowed. So when you look at the deviation, it's scary, it's 70% deviation. but the house is already at almost 46% deviation. We're adding about 650 square feet of building coverage. But you won't see it, you won't feel it, like there's so many positives about this, and we didn't talk yet about the architecture. There's no attic, so the storage would be great. Obviously, it's our car garage, amazing. But the net result is so much nicer and better for the Daniels, better for the neighborhood. But that's a big number if you just stare at the percentages. But if you look at the overall effect, it's a benefit in my mind.
You'll see some of the building coverage in the one-story addition.
That doesn't change, because if I build underneath it, it's building coverage. So the only difference would be if I get the FAR on top of it. Because the deck wraps around the house.
I
And
thought
this,
you,
oh, I apologize, there's
Yeah.
already, underneath this deck is already a garage. So it's already being counted as
oh,
building.
oh, okay, okay.
I forgot that. Okay, sorry. Fifth variance, lot coverage. We're existing non-conforming. You're supposed to be at 35%. The existing house is at 53.6. As a result of an approval, we'd be lowering the lot coverage. We'd be lowering it 350 square feet less than what exists. Still a variance, but we're making it better. So positive. And finally, FAR. So if allowed to do this 15 by 17 one-story addition in the corner that sits nestled in this corner here, we'd be a 5% deviation from what's allowed. So existing house is not conforming by 20 square feet. We'll be seeking an additional 250. And again, I think there's no adjacent neighbors. It's a one-story. Won't block anyone's light and air space, but will allow them a little extra space in their master bedroom suite. Those are the 6 variances. And what I could say really quickly, just to recap, shape of the lot triggers a lot of the variances, which squeezes the backyard. Aesthetically, it's going to be more compatible with the existing architecture, and I think it's going to be more pleasing, certainly for the Daniels and anybody who else has an opportunity to see this project. And in terms of FAR, I think where it's placed, the massing, it will be only the Daniels will get the benefit of it, and there'll be no detriment from that. That's our application. Did I miss anything?
What's the existing floor area ratio?
Existing FAR is 26.1%. And we're proposing 27.3.
Anything more?
I just think that they obviously bought the house, they didn't increase the footprint, they increased the livable space. But that it truly, truly will be more of a long-term project. They've been repairing the deck.
Yeah, no, I repaired it once about 10 years ago, had mahogany put in, even that's rotting at this point, and that's with treating it every year. It's not holding up. I had a contractor come and look at it, and at first he's like, that's not mahogany. And he went and he picked up the piece and he looked at it and he said, no, it's mahogany. It's just, with all the shade in the back, it's too wet. It's not drying out.
It's interesting. Now you have a 4 foot to maybe 2 foot elevation of unusable space. That's certainly in its current condition is unsightly, but now we're going to have these gorgeous walls, and it's going to be very pretty, and I think it's going to be a positive to the neighborhood, and not detriment, but it's just an interesting interesting zoning problem, or not.
How high are you raising the?
The deck, the patio will replace the deck, it's the same elevation, and instead of railings, we'll have some masonry piers with a railing between. I think we were planning on some aluminum or wrought iron railing in between these masonry piers.
Any other questions from board members?
Just to summarize, just to to reiterate, just for my edification, so the rear yard unoccupied, a big reason for that change is because the deck is becoming a patio,
Yeah, and consider building coverage, and that's
Right.
your main house.
and thus also the building coverage is changing for that reason also, so it's not a footprint expansion, it's just,
Right.
Where do you
Okay.
measure from?
yeah, got
Yeah,
it.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, and the lot coverage actually, it's an existing nonconformity, but it's actually coming down.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, even though we're more unoccupied, it's gonna feel more area.
We had, in terms of storage, we do have a problem with no attic in the house because it's a flat roof house. There's, even the outdoor furniture has to stay outside right now. I can't take it in. There's no place to put it. So this gives us opportunity for storage, especially since when we first moved in the house, we were single, married couple, and now we have 3 kids, and they have a lot of stuff.
area under the deck is like a no man's land.
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about that.
I mean, that's,
Any other questions from board
Yeah,
members?
so there's already 2-car garage,
Yes.
and this is gonna add, you called it a 3rd-car garage. But this is gonna be, it's
You don't
Gonna
want
be
storage beyond.
all the way back, so,
Yes, it would be.
okay. So theoretically, if you wanted to, you could park 2 cars in
Tandem,
tandem.
yeah.
You said the one-story addition is proposed to be above the existing garage, so the 2-car garage is really deep? I'm trying to figure out.
Yes,
Yeah.
So it
yes.
goes all the way from.
Full garage, very,
Very
Here,
deep.
it's
you
two
see
tandem.
this,
Gigantic basement.
it's
it's
gigantic.
weird,
it was all
You see how it
pre-existing.
has like a beam there and then it goes underneath? This is where the master addition is gonna be
Above
above that.
yes.
We're calling it a 3rd garage, but it's a storage space.
Yes.
Well, whatever they call it, it's FAR.
Right.
Yeah.
Room? The room?
Right?
The
garage,
basement.
The garage.
Yeah, the garage
Don't
is
we,
affecting
don't you
FAR.
include that?
No, not in the basements.
Oh, the basement doesn't, no, not the basement. I keep forgetting we're in the basement.
So the increase in FAR is due
The-
to
the
the
room.
addition
The
above
addition.
the
Yeah.
existing garage.
Any other questions from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions of any of these witnesses? Is there anyone in the audience who has a statement he or she would like to make with respect to this application? I hear none, I see none. Anything further? I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members?
When I first looked at this, I thought, Danny has lost his mind, right? There's no way this is gonna get through. And now after the presentation and the explanation, which are very articulate and clear, it's really creative architecture. It's a really interesting job.
Makes a lot of sense.
So I would support this application, and one of the main reasons is, yeah, the numbers are daunting, but when you really look at the project, it is really not going to be the detriment of any of the neighbors. I mean, obviously, one side, there are no neighbors, and then the other side, because of the grade and the vegetation and so forth, they're not gonna see this. And frankly, I realize the FAR, but this is a great example of where a lot can take the FAR.
Can accommodate it.
Right, can accommodate it, and it's not really where we say, oh, well, that's gonna be a problem here. So I realize there are 6, asking for 6 variances, but I don't see any of it being an issue.
We do have an FAR here, right?
Yes, we do, so we should vote on the FAR
Yeah, so let's
separately.
see, anyone else have anything to say?
No, I just agree. I think that the property can handle the application, and I think it is creatively done.
All right, we're going to deal first with the FAR floor area ratio. And that is proposed to go from 26.1% or 26%.
26.1%
No,
to 27.3.
Yeah, to 27.3, right. Is there a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary Burnett?
Yes.
Craig Plummer?
Yes.
Julie Sherman?
Yes.
Joyce Hill?
Yes.
Steve Tober?
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres?
Yes.
Joseph Saunders?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we have the other variances, which are side-facing garage setback, combined side yard setback, rear yard unoccupied, building coverage, and lot coverage. Is there a motion on those?
Move approval of remaining variances.
Seconded.
Mary Burnett?
Yes.
Craig Plummer?
Yes.
Joyce Sherman?
Yes.
Joyce Hill?
Yes.
Steve Tober?
Yes.
Wolfgang Torres?
Yes.
Joseph Saunders?
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
All right, the next case is Lana Cleater at calendar number 3719-19. And let me just state again for the record that our vice chair has recused on this case as well for personal reasons.
I do. Daniel Dubonnet.
Lana Clutter. Clutter.
Okay, who's gonna testify? Danny, you'll have to give us your credentials again.
Okay, licensed architect, state of New Jersey. Got my license in 2001. It's current and in good standing. I've appeared before this board and others in the Essex County. And I practice primarily residential architecture.
Your license is in good standing.
Yes.
Your qualifications as an architect are accepted by this board.
This is another interesting project. I like this one very much because I think as a result of this approval, if it is granted, will reorganize this house and the property and the neighborhood for the good, which is interesting. It's located on Barnesdale, 15 Barnesdale. That's an R5 zone. It is a very interesting lot. It's a through lot, so it has two front yards, but usually front yards go around the corner. This has a front on Barnesdale, and the backyard has a front yard on Washington Avenue. So very interesting. So two front yards with two sides. The front yard and the address is Barnesdale, the front door. The current garage and driveway, you kind of come in from Washington. So it's like you're driving through your backyard, and you get to your garage, and so you're in the back of the house. No one comes to the front because there's no driveway, there's a very long walkway. So the proposal here is to reuse the existing garage as house, living space, build a new two-car garage that will now front Barnesdale with a driveway off of Barnesdale to the garage. Then we'll be able to remove all the driveway and curbing that relates to the driveway off of Washington. So we're going to reorientate the flow and function and look of the house and vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic. So it's going to be a big benefit to Washington Avenue because now so we're going to reorganize and redesign the flow of the house and the flow of the property. So there's two variances associated with this, and they all relate to the oddity of having two front yards. So Washington's our rear yard, but the addition that we're going to do violates the rear yard setback. And if I may, I'm going to just hand out an update to the survey, which will clarify some numbers that we'll talk about. But should I mark it as A1?
A1, please.
Okay. it's the survey with a minor adjustment because the number on the, there's a number on the application that's different than the survey that you have, so this clarifies that. But basically, we're proposing this addition that will violate the front yard setback on Washington, 30.9 feet, where 40 feet is required. And I'd like to mark this as A2, which is a colorized version of the site plan.
Colored version of sheet V1.
Yes. So the two variances associated with this project. First
No,
one
wait, I think it's a colored version of the survey.
of the survey, I apologize. Yeah.
Okay. The original survey or the A1 survey?
The original, A1 survey, the one that's circulating.
Okay.
So what you're seeing, if you can see, there's a dotted line that we call the building envelope, which is this faint line here. That's the lawfully placed that you can have a structure. The existing house is out of the box. It's skewed on the property. So we're looking to square off the back of the house or the kitchen. And although it doesn't come out visually as far as the house is now because it's on an angle, the existing house is at 32 feet. The worst case on the kitchen is going to be 30.9 feet. If this was your rear yard, this purple line would show you what would be the rear yard setback. It's 22 feet. You know, you take the lot depth, 20% of that give you this imaginary line. So we'd be well within the rear yard setback if it was a normal lot. But because this is considered a front, that front yard setback actually, violates the whole house. So you couldn't really do any kind of expansion without needing a variance. It's heavily screened on Washington, and when we get rid of this curb cut, we'll replace this with, continue the mature looking evergreens. So we'll be very private from Washington. The second variance is because you're not allowed any accessory structures in the front yard. So the existing patio that we want to get a walkway to and expand is technically located in a front yard. So that, no matter what, requires a variance. So there's no lot coverage issues, there's no FAR issues. It's really about that Washington being the front yard. Yeah, those are the two variances. The project is a one-story kitchen addition, patio expansion, and a two-car garage that'll face Barnesdale, which you're allowed. That's the application.
Then the property line along Washington Avenue, it's quite a bit away from the strip line, right?
Yeah, there's a significant right of way, actually.
Yeah, but
It's very big. You're right. Let's take the smallest part. 22 feet. That's a big right of way. Yeah. So really, if I was to continue the grass shading, it would go all the way up to the, it's that old swale of a gutter or curb.
There are a lot of evergreens back there, aren't there?
Yeah, a lot of mature evergreens, and like I said, we're
And
gonna-
would your client accept a condition that those evergreen trees would remain?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Where are they?
They're right along the Washington
Yeah,
Street side.
right along the wall here.
Well, they're not hurt trees.
They're not.
Yeah, exactly. You're in the right away.
I see this.
Sure. I only agree to that, because they're not hers.
Good point.
I don't know whether there are any on her property or not.
Where the driveway is going,
Yes.
there's a very large tree just to the left,
Yes.
to the
that
left
will-
back of that utility pole. Is that tree coming down?
It would have to facilitate the, well, it wouldn't, yes, it would have to, because the utility pole's here, the tree is probably right there. So if the forester says no and it's a tree to be protected, we have room to shift the driveway over, but ideally no.
Okay.
And if he says you have to replace it once you take it down, then you'll do that too.
Yes.
The accessory structure in the front yard, that's relating to the patio and the walkways?
No.
Not the walkways, just the patio.
Any other questions from board members? Anyone in the audience have any questions relating to this case? Anyone in the audience have a comment he or she would like to make with respect to this matter? I'll close the public portion of the meeting. Board members?
You know, again, there's the fronts, they're basically converting the second front into a more traditional backyard. If you look at it that way, there actually are no variances. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree, I think it's a good application, and it makes sense.
Anyone else? Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Mary McNabb? Yes.
Yes.
Mary Sharma?
Yes.
Greg Seaborn?
Yes.
Steve Fuller?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Okay, there is one more matter to be heard. We're going to take about a 12-minute break. And I'm going to suggest that everyone who's left in the room is obviously here, I suppose, for the last case we're hearing, New Jersey Energy. And I'm going to suggest that in order to hear and see the exhibits and hear the testimony, you folks come forward to the front row, which is completely empty on both sides here. And that way you can hear the testimony, see the exhibits. And be part of the action. All right, we're going to take just, I'm going to make the following comments with respect to this case. We're going to start it at presumably about 5 minutes after 9. We will take no new witnesses after 10:30, and the evening will end promptly at 11 o'clock if it goes that far.
Thanks.
You made it.
I did it.
Okay, we're taking about 10 minutes.
Okay, good. I'll get more water. They texted me, he said, we're done, and I was like in the middle of the water.
You don't like what I did?
No, I said, we were just talking about that with line grab matter.
Thank God.
It's over.
They must be so pleased.
They are so pleased. Oh my gosh.
When I got that, I was just like, hallelujah.
You know, I got nervous because usually they don't take that door in the spring court. And the fact that they were taking all that time, I got a little concerned. There's something up.
Interesting. Yeah, I just, when I got that, I was like, thank goodness. Good, good. I just, that was,
A little bit, you know, like where the windows are gonna be.
He's getting his coat.
yeah. That was just like so
You
good.
know, when you have
Like my
situations.
dental coverage version or whatever.
Right. Really sad.
And what's annoying is I know that my dad wrote that petition for service.
Of course, of course.
It's right, and it's unethical, it's stressful.
But what are you gonna do? Was Pat, I mean, is Pat okay? Because I know there was some health issue, wasn't there? Oh, okay. Because I thought there was some email that suggested there was a health issue.
Well, no, what happened was that he never submitted his reply on the petition for service. He just never, and then he finally did it like 11 days later, and they rejected it. I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Right, I just kept quiet. They rejected it, and I think they told him he had to make a motion to submit out of time.
Yeah.
And I basically didn't oppose it.
Seriously, I went to
Yeah.
yell across from right when I
Whatever.
saw you, when it started. It
I just was
beautiful,
curious,
looked
you know,
beautiful.
because,
No, I haven't heard, his secretary is close actually to my secretary, but I haven't heard anything.
okay.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me, that's so funny. Close, you know, relationship and business and personal and everything, but the funny thing is this.
I'll always take the part. I have around 4 attorneys. We have like 2 or 3.
And she has a son.
We had 8 cases last week, last meeting. I'm ready to shoot myself. I left here, I said, oh my God, there must be a game on TV.
That's who they gave me, so I saw her application
But
and
yeah,
I'm like, are you
I
kidding me?
can never
Like,
tell with this board, what they're gonna do.
where I saw the application, we don't even.
Tell you.
You know, but
It's
I'm
like,
I can't,
seriously?
I can't be a good parent.
It's
now,
so
we have to
weird.
make a decision on the application, so I'm like,
I
whatever.
was in Barney.
Oh, thank you for keeping me.
There were so many cases, and the chairman did a really smart thing. So, the first case came up, and like, oh yeah, I'm here with my 5 witnesses. He's like, whoa, hold on. Let's take a straw, before I have testimony, let's take a straw poll as to where we are with this case. So he takes a straw poll with just the board, no testimony.
Yeah.
Like, we got a problem with this, you got a problem with this? Like, and then he said to the attorney, he said, well, you know, it's a straw poll. You can do the 50-minute version, or you can do the 5-minute version. Or you can do whatever you want, but we're recommending the 5-minute.
Yeah.
And they would just like bang, but we don't have to hear witnesses, just give me an overview, put it on the record.
Oh my
take a
God.
vote. That was it. You know, there were no objectors.
Yeah. But you never know, even though without objectors, you never
Yeah,
know.
let me tell you something, when I do that, I huddle my people and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is the risk.
I remember when I used to cover Parsippany. There could be 10, 12 cases on the agenda. It's like, how are they ever gonna get through those? They whip through those cases like in 10
Well,
minutes.
what's his name, the chairman?
Well, I don't know who it is now.
No, it's a guy, Board of Adjustment chairman's been there forever. In Parsippany.
Yeah, but it's not,
I can't stop it.
no. I'm trying to think who it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're on TV.
You are.
We all are. Yes.
Where's my name?
So, I can't think who it is, but they can,
That is so clear, Steve.
yeah. They can whip through an agenda in Parsippany like nobody.
And the kids, the boys.
I can't think who it is, and I should know because. Who is it? That's gonna drive me nuts.
I'm blanking on it. He's
Yeah.
been there for a long time.
Yeah, a long
He
time.
runs a good,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they always do. But it's amazing how quick they get through. So remember, address the EIS.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
They use some kind of proprietary artificial product, safe for kids, safe for animals, your kids can be outside when they're spraying, it doesn't smell, it's not really chemicals, and it works against the emergency reproductive our most it's designated. We have one, we have it all over, and it's beautiful, and it's like, they literally just said that the owners of this might jump over my property and go into the next door neighbors. We see the same thing, we do come, the only thing that's what we're doing is like
But the thing doesn't come back at all.
Bing Shen.
But
We'll see.
drugs, like everything, yeah, New Jersey Jerky and J Jerky.
The guy in my rotary had 5 daughters. He had 5 daughters, no sons. His 5 daughters all have boys. He has 10 grandsons. 5 daughters and 10 grandsons. How does that happen? Just the odds of that. I thought that was like so bizarre. Isn't that amazing?
They can literally spray it with when you're outside and when your kids are playing. It's like, they use like scents and stuff, and I don't know, it's like a really
Things I can never figure out. I throw those things.
yes, and I thought I would see that house too. Yeah, yes. Yeah, right. Sorry, Joe, I'm just gonna like you're squeezing it. Joe, just like a teeny drops of injector.
Pardon me?
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna squeeze it.
I'm being scratched by another piece of it for Micah now. I might have to bring my roll of tape again.
Oh, no, it's coming
So
up.
there's one
No, there's a new piece.
So he's not a kind of 3-wheel guy. And you
Oh,
really
yeah, I know.
You know, we can deem it, we could deem it, we could waive it for completeness purposes, but tell them we want it to submit it, you know, we're prior to the next hearing or something.
You might be recusing.
Yes. Did he leave?
He's really good size.
Did Wolfgang leave already?
He's gonna stand up.
Yeah, he's recusing.
So.
There's like a conflict.
Just crush and step on. I agree. Yeah, right there.
All right, it's 3 minutes after 9. We ready to go? Back on. All right, we're ready to proceed.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Posada. I'm with the law firm Skink Price. I'm here tonight with my colleague Sean Monahan. We represent the applicant, NJ Energy Corp., in connection with this application for preliminary and final site plan approval, which may include D variance relief, but it absolutely does require a slew of both variances in connection with this application. The subject property is located at 132 Millburn Ave, which property is designated as Block 409, Lot 13, on the official tax maps of Millburn Township, and it is within the OR2 zone. In response to the board and public commentary in 2018 for both the March 5th and June 25th hearing dates, the applicant has made significant revisions to the application. Specifically, The convenience store.
Counsel, before you
Yes.
continue,
Is this the same application number or a new app? This is a new application.
new application.
Yep.
I'm going to raise an issue
Sure.
that I think we should deal with first.
Sure.
You have a request for the waiver of an environmental impact statement.
Correct. Now, as I understand from reading the transcripts of the prior hearings, there was a request for a EIS actual submission and not the waiver itself. A waiver will be sufficient for purposes of completeness. So with that being said, I'd like that determination be carried to this application with the understanding now that we have a new application, we will be submitting an EIS statement.
Okay,
fine.
so we're just waiving it for completeness purposes only, and you will be providing it prior to the next hearing?
Absolutely.
Great. Proceed.
Thank you so very much. So, like I said before, in response to both the board and the public's commentary, we've made significant positive changes. Most specifically, the convenience store will no longer be operated as a 7-Eleven. Rather, it will be operated as a Chestnut Mart, which is the type of convenience store that the applicant operates itself. So NJ Energy will both operate the convenience store and also the Exxon gasoline station. It is Exxon for purposes of branding, and they are the ones who supply the fueling in and of itself. The convenience store gross floor area has also now been significantly reduced by more than 600 feet. It is now 2,000, before it was 2,473 square feet. It is now 1,820 square feet. The building coverage is also in response reduced from 22.4% to 18.4%, therefore eliminating existing non-conforming condition and also requested variance. In connection with that, the parking has also been eliminated, that variance relief for that. 11 spots are required, 11 are now being proposed. Additionally, the front yard originally had a 3-foot setback and now has an 8-yard setback, still requires variance relief, but less intensity therewith. The site lighting foot candle intensity has been reduced, and most importantly, from the transcript hearing that I was able to review from both March and June, I heard there was significant commentary regarding both lighting and also the hours of operation. I wanted to get this out in front to let the board and the public know as well that pursuant to your ordinance that requires operation only through 6 a.m. and 11 p.m., therefore no operational use from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. For gasoline stations will also be the same applicable hours for the Chestnut Mart. So both the Chestnut Mart and gasoline service station of one use will be operated from only 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. The lighting for the facility itself, for both, again, the gasoline and convenience store, which is one principal use, at least that's our position, will also have all lighting shut off at 11 p.m., except for those lighting that are essential for safety purposes. So as you can see, the applicant is here tonight with full intentions to try to do as much as they possibly can to bring this site into conforming with the zoning ordinance and also the master plan, while also trying its best to be a respectful neighbor. With the understanding that tonight's application is going to be limited, so I guess now to almost 2 hours, we are only going to provide engineering testimony tonight by David Halls. He will be providing engineering testimony. The planning testimony, that's going to be provided by John McDonough at a future date deemed appropriate by this board. At such future dates as well, we will also be having a landscape architect, and also a traffic engineer opine on those other proofs as well. And during that time period, we will be submitting a traffic engineering report that will be prepared by Harold Boltz and the EIS statement in and of itself.
Proceed.
So if I may, I'd like to just call my first witness, David.
I do. David Halls, H-A-L-S. My address is 9 Post Road, Suite M11, Oakland, New Jersey.
All right, David, can you please provide your educational credentials for this board?
Yes, I have an associate's degree in applied science for forestry and surveying from Portsmouth College. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering, Master of Science in Civil Engineering, both from NJIT. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor and planner in the state of New Jersey. Been a licensed engineer since 1984, a planner since 1986, and a land surveyor since 1988. I've testified before numerous municipalities, been accepted in all 3 licenses in over 100 municipalities in the state of New Jersey.
Is your license in good standing?
It is.
And have you appeared before this board before?
I have, twice before.
Great. Is he satisfied as an engineer?
You're proposing him as an expert in what fields?
Engineering.
Engineering. His qualifications as an engineer are accepted by this board.
Thank you. So David, did you visit the subject property that's part of the application here tonight?
I did.
And are you familiar with the OR2 zone district?
Yes, I am.
And is this subject property located within that zone district?
That's correct, it is.
Are you familiar with the township's zoning ordinances
Yes.
and master plan?
Yes.
When drafting this proposed site plan, did you take into consideration both the zoning ordinances and master plan?
We did.
Terrific. Can you please explain to the board the proposed site plan?
What I have mounted on the board is this is a plan entitled Landscaping and Existing Conditions Plan, Block 409, Lot 13, 132 Millburn Avenue for New Jersey Energy Corporation, and it's dated April 16, 2019.
And if it pleases the board, I'll mark it A1 with today's date.
Is that identical?
Which sheet is that of your, no, I know, but
Oh, it's sheet,
sheet 4, okay.
Yeah, the reason I've taken that plan is, that plan both shows it shows the existing survey conditions of the site.
And it's not identical to the one we...
It is identical except
Except for
for
the
its
color.
color.
Except for the color. Fine. Let's mark it A1.
Just for orientation, the plan is located at the existing site is located at the southeast corner of Vauxhall Road and Millburn Avenue. Vauxhall Road is running horizontal on the plan sheet, and Millburn Avenue is running in a diagonal towards the top right corner of the plan. The property has been colored for identification. The existing concrete sidewalk and the concrete on the site itself is colored in a beige. There's brick paver entrances along the sidewalk. Or brick paver areas along the sidewalk, excuse me, not an entrance, those are brick pavers. Those are colored in a peach color along the sidewalks. The dark brown is the existing Canopy gas station that's located on the site itself. And that's the existing orientation of the site. Some of the other features to the south of the site is the Rawway, excuse me, east branch of the Rawway River. Also, the center line of the river is the division line between Union and Millburn. Opposite or continuation in a southerly direction, that is, I believe it's the Vauxhall Mall, I believe that's what it's called. It's a commercial strip mall in Union. When you're on the site on Millburn Avenue, to the right or the east of our site is an existing commercial building. Opposite Vauxhall Road is a parking area that's located in the C-Zone district. Opposite our site, in the northerly direction, are commercial residential properties, and behind or to the north of those uses along Millburn Avenue are residential homes that are located on Ridgewood Road and also Reese Avenue. The lot area of the property is 16,402 square feet, or 0.376 acres. The property is commonly known as 132 Millburn Avenue, which is block 409, lot 13. As we stated before, it's located in the OR2 zone district, which is the Office Research Zone District. The existing use of the property is a closed gas service station. The beige area in the center of the property is the foundation of the prior service station itself. There was a fire there, I believe it was November 2009, that the building burned, and the only remnants of the foundation, of the old building right now is the foundation which presently exists on the site.
Also, the existing canopy, it's an irregular shaped canopy, but there's underneath that canopy is 3 fueling pumps with 6 fueling positions. So there is currently would be 6 fueling positions on the site. In the north easterly corner of the site, there's 3 underground storage tanks that are existing on the property, and they're located under a concrete pad, and that's proposed to remain. You'll see in a little bit with the proposed that is proposed to remain. There's 2 existing driveways, each on Vauxhall Road and also Millburn Avenue that access the existing property. The site is almost 100% paved. The existing coverage is at 92.2%. There are just small islands right at the intersection of the 2 streets, plus there's a small green area along the brook. The existing building coverage on the property, including both the gas station and the canopies, is 22.3%. And most importantly, on the site is bisected by the floodway of the river itself. What this means is that everything from basically the front of the prior building towards the river is restricted from construction of a new building. So the only usable portion of the property is the northern portion of the property, or from the front portion of the building foundation towards Millburn Avenue. 100% of the property is located in the flood hazard area of the brook. The property topographically rises from the banks of the brook, rises towards the middle of the site or the foundation of the prior building, and then falls in elevation or drops in elevation towards Millburn Avenue. Any construction on the site will require DEP approval for construction within a flood hazard area. Any approval by this board must be conditioned, or it doesn't have to be conditioned, but will require us to obtain permits from both DEP for construction of the canopies, a proposed canopy, which I'll show you in a second, and also the construction of the building because of their location in a flood hazard area. There's a riparian buffer that's associated with the brook. That riparian buffer was measured from the top of the bank of the brook, and that's measured 50 feet from the top of the bank, and that extends to about the back side of the existing building or the prior building itself. This was an undeveloped site where it was completely where it would be vegetated. That riparian buffer would be restricted from development. In this case, the riparian buffer today is almost 100% paved. There's just a small strip along the banks of the brook itself. What we're going to be doing is redeveloping that riparian area, and that will also require a permit from DEP for that. Several things that this site specifically, in 1996, in July 1996, the Zoning Board of Adjustment resolution granted an auto service station, and it also in that zoning board resolution determined that the site was continually used since 1930 as a service station. So we are going to proposing a similar use in terms of the gas station use, which would be consistent with that approval. In 1970, there was an additional zoning board of adjustment application for the new building that was constructed at the site. In 1996, there was a zoning board approval for the current use of the property, even though it's closed at this point in time. That granted the use for the service station and the canopies around on the site. What we're proposing to do is sheet 2 of 7 of the site plans, identical copy, except for this has been colored for identification.
We'll mark it as A2.
A2 is sheet 2 of 7.
This is the exact plan that's been submitted. It's been colored for identification. On this application, the proposed paved area is gray in color. The proposed building located at the intersection, or towards the intersection of Vauxhall Road and Millburn Avenue, is colored in brown. It's a irregular shaped building to match the angle of the streets. The proposed gasoline pumps are located under a canopy. The canopy is colored in brown, and it's in the middle of the gray paved area. This plan also has the same orientation as the previous plan. Vauxhall Road is running horizontally across the middle of the plan, and Millburn Avenue is angled towards the upper right of the sheet. The proposed sidewalks areas are colored in a beige, and the landscape areas that we're proposing with the application are colored in a green or a light green color. The only other beige in the right-hand side of the site is the trash collection area. That's basically what's being proposed and how it's colored. The proposed building is, as I mentioned before, is located at the intersection of two roads. It has a front yard setback from Vauxhall Road we're proposing of 8 feet, and we also have a proposed front yard setback from Millburn Avenue of 8 feet.
How many feet? I'm sorry.
8 feet on each
8 feet.
setback. The proposed building will have a square footage of 1,820 square feet, and it will be 1 story in height. The elevation of the building, because of the flood hazard area, is going to be located above the flood hazard elevation itself. The whole building will be elevated. It'll be built on piers, and it'll allow the floodwaters to flow under the building. Once you hear from the architect, he'll describe on how he's putting screening or lattice, I don't call it lattice work, he would shoot me if I said that. He's putting some type of architectural features around the building to give it the appearance that it's in one continuous, or built to the ground level, but it's designed in a fashion to allow floodwaters to flow underneath the building itself. The access to the site is going to be from a single driveway on Vauxhall Road and a single driveway from Millburn Avenue. The driveways in both locations are as far from the intersection as we possibly can create on the site, and they're both dual entrance driveways, dual access driveways. So you'll be able to enter and exit from both driveways. The proposed pump islands under the canopy, there'll be 3 fuel pumps and 6 fueling positions. So the fueling positions will be the exact amount of fueling positions is exactly the same as what it is today. Going back to the building itself is 1,820 square feet. The building is sized and the site is designed, so we're providing 11 parking spaces for the proposed building, which is conformance with the zoning ordinance for the number of parking spaces. Directly in front of the building, we have 8 parking spaces. Then we have 2 parking spaces located on the southwest corner of the site, whereas you're facing the site to the right of the canopy, as the plan is oriented today. And then the additional space is along the common property line, along the easterly common property line. That will give us the 11 parking spaces. We have an additional loading area that is located to the right or to the east of the canopy, and that'll provide the loading space for the proposed application. Vehicle access into the site will be able to be provided both from Vauxhall Road and from Millburn Avenue. The same as for truck traffic entering the site itself. We would anticipate that the truck traffic for the site, for the fueling positions, as I mentioned before, the tanks are located in the under the. It's just not color beige here, but it's they're located in the northerly portion of the site itself, closer towards Millburn Avenue. Those 3 tanks are proposed to remain. The fueling truck will enter the site from Vauxhall Road. It'll be able to swing through the site itself on the left-hand side of the east or the westerly side of the canopy. It'll be able to stop over the pumps, drop its fuel and be able to exit out of the site from either going either east or west along Millburn Avenue. So the site is designed so that the tractor trailers will be able to enter the site and exit the site and will not impact any of the other traffic movements on Millburn Avenue or Vauxhall Road. In terms of smaller truck traffic, we're anticipating that the truck traffic would, if it was coming from Vauxhall Road, they would actually turn right at the traffic light, enter in from Millburn Avenue, come in on the easterly side property line between the canopy and the trash collection area. They'll be able to come around the pump island, come out towards the Vauxhall Road driveway and back into the loading space. They'd be able to take their goods out. They'd have to bring them over to the building itself. And then once they're done, they'd be able to leave the site, and that wouldn't impact at all of the operation of the site itself. In terms of the car traffic, the site is designed so pedestrian, single unit passenger vehicles will be able to enter the site from any of the driveways, will be able to turn and access into the parking spaces along the convenience store, or they can access in along the canopy. Both movements do not interfere with each other. There's enough room between the canopy and cars parked at the canopy, and the cars to be able to back in and out and access the parking spaces along the building. Freely, the site can continue to move. If there's somebody parked at the fueling positions and you enter and choose that the first position is taken and you want the second one, you'd be able to maneuver around the site, and it will not interrupt the traffic flow from people entering or exiting the site itself. That's basically what we've done with the design. I know this is a new application, but I'm sure people remember the previous application. The building was substantially larger, even though it was 600 square feet. It did make an impact on the site itself, and it did impact a lot of the movements on the site. The proposed, if I just compare the existing building coverage to the proposed, the existing building footprint was 1,778 square feet. The proposed building is 1,820 square feet. The canopy size on the existing site was substantially larger. It's 1,885 square feet, and the proposed is 1,204 square feet. So there's been a reduction in the overall coverage of the site by about 600 square feet, and the overall coverage is being reduced from 22.3% to 18.4%. In the OR2 zone district, the maximum permitted building coverage is 20% of the lot area. The existing site exceeded that building coverage. Our proposed application is now conforming in terms of the building coverage. The impervious coverage of the property, the existing impervious coverage on the property, as I said before, is almost 100%. It's 92.2%. We're making a substantial reduction. You can just see that just visually by looking at the plan. The amount of green area was tough to see on the existing survey. This one you can see that we're proposing a lot more green area specifically around the site of the building itself, and then we're also increasing the green area along the brook. So we're trying to bring our site in close and conforming as we can. The existing site had a impervious coverage of 15,120 square feet, and we're reducing that to 12,571 square feet, and we're bringing that coverage down to 76.6%, where a maximum of 65% is permitted. We are bringing it closer into conformance to what we're proposing. The floor area ratio, this proposed building is a one-story building. The floor area ratio proposed is 0.11, where 0.4 is the maximum permitted, so that is conforming. In terms of our location of our proposed building, as I mentioned before, we're asking for variances on the front yard setbacks on, maybe I didn't say that.
but we're asking for variances on the front yard setbacks for the 2 streets. We're proposing 8 feet where 15 feet is required. The existing canopy, in comparison to what is out there today, the existing canopy from Vauxhall Road has a setback of 10.5 feet, and we are proposing 8 feet to the building. So we're bringing that, the building 2.5 feet closer than what currently exists with the canopy that's there. In terms of Millburn Avenue, the proposed building setback is 8 feet, and the existing building is 12.8 feet. So we're reducing that setback from the current existing by 4.8 feet. We have the side yard setback to the building, to the commercial property to our east has an existing setback of 3.3 feet, and we're increasing that distance to 17.5, and we're bringing in conformance with the side yard setback, and that is to the proposed canopy that we're having. There's, on our site, there's an existing freestanding sign that's located at the intersection of the 2 streets. That existing sign is situated in a non-conforming location. We're proposing to move that sign, slide it into the property to a conforming location. We're going to keep the same exact sign that's there today. We're not changing the sign, but we are going to slide it in to the site to a conforming location. So we're eliminating the non-conforming sign location, the non-conforming pylon sign location. Some of the other aspects of the site, we have, I could show it, but you're not going to be able to read any of the numbers, so it doesn't matter. Site lighting, we're proposing, it was shown on sheet 4 of 7. You can read it if you look at the plans, but basically the plan is showing that we're proposing 3 building mounted lights, one at each of the entrance driveways, a third one towards the loading space area. Those will be the only site lights that are specifically being proposed at the building, or at the site. They are 15-foot high pole-mounted lights sitting on a concrete base, and then there are 6 lights underneath the canopy. The lights under the canopy are recessed lights. They sit up into the housing of the canopy, or the ceiling of the canopy, so they'll be flush or recessed above in there. So the only way to physically see the lights is to be underneath the canopy and see the lights. So they're trying to be, we tried to screen them in a fashion that they won't be visible from the residents across Millburn Avenue. The lights, the pole-mounted lights, they're a flat